Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Off-Farm Income Podcast. Hey, thank you for joining us on our YouTube channel. This is episode number 730. This is one of our Tuesday episodes, so glad that you are here. Well, everybody, I'm just kind of, on the Tuesday episode, I'm just always kind of recapping my week and ththings that are going on in ag. I kind of get talk about whatever I want to talk about, and I've got a little bit of all of that for you today. To start off, I just got back from, an epic weekend. So with Autumm and Hattie's help, I have been chasing elk around the mountains of Idaho with no luck, by the way. I don't know how many of you have ever attempted to go out and hunt elk, but oh my goodness, it is a lot of work, and they are a frustrating animal to hunt for such a large animal. But if you can harvest one, that is a lot of meat in your freezer for the winter, and that is what it's all about for me. However, it seems to be more in vain at this point than anything else. But it did lead to a very interesting weekend. So I actually took off last Friday and headed up towards Sun Valley. You guys probably, if you're not from Idaho, you've probably heard of the Sun Valley ski resort, famous ski resort. Well, it's surrounded by unbelievably majestic mountains and a lot of wildlife. And I've got a muzzleloader tag up there, very late season, opened on December 1st, and so I went up there to see if I could find some elk. It's an area I've never ever hunted in, and so, the first part, the first several days is just exploring and trying to get your bearings and figure out where you're at. So I went up Friday, hunted all day Friday, and where I hunted in the unit, I wasn't quite all the way to Sun Valley. I was probably about 40 miles shy of Sun Valley. So it's right on the borderline of, does it make more sense for me to stay up there or to come home? So I actually hunted all day on Friday. I didn't see an animal. I saw a bald eagle. That's all I saw. And some crows and some ravens. But that's it. Not even a coyote. And didn't see an animal, and I ended up coming home that night. And then Hattie wants to go get our Christmas tree, which is a natural inclination. I mean, here we are. We're only 2.5 weeks away from Christmas at this point, or actually just 2 weeks from Christmas Eve as you're hearing this, if you're listening to this on the day that it comes out. So, oh my goodness. So she wanted to go get our Christmas tree. I'm going to be hunting the next 2 weekends. I'm like, how are we going to pull this off? So we came up with a plan, and Autumm and Hattie came up and stayed the night in Ketchum, which is right outside of Sun Valley, on Saturday night, and so I stayed the night up there as well. And then I took a break midday yesterday, which was Sunday as I'm recording this, and we went out and we cut down our Christmas tree. Now, we go, and almost every year, cut our own Christmas tree. Last year we had to buy one. I'm trying to remember what happened. Something occurred to where we couldn't get up the mountain because of a storm, and then we had no more weekends to be able to go and do this, so we ended up buying a tree. But I think every year since college, except for when I moved back to California after college, I've cut down my own Christmas tree. We started doing this in college, my roommates and I. It was always a lot of fun. I had never done it before. And then when I finished up with college, I moved back to California, and they didn't allow people to do that, so I had to buy one. And then when Autumm and I moved to Idaho, we're back in an area where you can cut your own Christmas tree again, and so we started that tradition over, she and I. And I tell you what, it's one of my favorite parts of Christmas is tromping out there in the woods, finding a tree, cutting it down, and having that fresh tree in the house. I love doing that, and that's something that I got introduced to when I lived in Montana. But so it's a tradition now, and Hattie loves the tradition, and so I'm just thrilled. It's something that we started way back when, with just my roommates and myself, and now I've been able to pass it along to my wife and also to my daughter, my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law. They go out and they cut their own tree now. It's a lot of fun. So yesterday we were doing that, and I just could not see depriving Hattie of a Christmas tree until 4 days before Christmas, when I no longer had a hunting tag. So we carved some time out during the middle of the day yesterday to go do that. And over the years, Autumm and I have been married now 21 years, and over the years, I have figured out how she picks the Christmas tree she wants. And essentially what she does is she walks out, and by the way, I don't know if you guys have ever heard this saying, but Idaho, they say if you could take all the mountains in Idaho and you could flatten the state out, it would by far be the biggest state in the union, because there's so much relief. There's so much straight up and down in Idaho. And certainly where we were at by Sun Valley is no exception. And I figured out how Autumm picks the tree she wants. And basically, here's what she does. We walk down the trail, we get into a canyon, into the area where the National Forest Service says you can cut trees. Then she looks up to the ridge line, up to the very top of the mountain. She finds a tree up on top, and she goes, that one looks good. And that's how she picks. So then what we do is we hike all the way to the top. And I am not in as good a shape as Autumn. She is a runner. I am not. And there's about, where we were getting this tree yesterday, there is about 2 feet of snow, probably 2 feet of snow. So we're tromping through snow straight up. I mean, we're talking easily a 60-degree angle. I think that's probably right. So to the point where I get up 4 or 5 steps, I'm getting hot, my foot slips, and I slide down about 6 steps and have to redo them all. It is frustrating. There could have been expletives. I'm not sure, but I think there was a high chance there was expletives. So anyway, we wound up way up this mountain. I'm exaggerating, of course, but we wound up way up this mountain, found the tree we wanted, cut it down, and I'm telling you right now, I could have found one just like it right off the trail. But anyway, it was a good hike. Now we've got a great story, and we've got a beautiful tree in the house. It's very fresh, smells great. Decorated it last night when we got back. It is a really, really fun tradition. So for those of you, I don't know if you've ever done it yourself, and I will tell you this right now. My mom, when I was a kid, she really, really liked a very fresh tree. She loved the Christmas tree part of the Christmas tradition. And we never had the option in California to go cut our own Christmas tree, but you could go to a Christmas tree farm where you cut your own. And I never knew why this was better back then, but my mom loved it. She loved to go get a Christmas tree at a place like that and to cut our own down. And there's just something about it, I think, that goes back to, I don't know, whenever this tradition started in Europe. There's something about it that goes back just to cutting your own down. So we actually cut our own when I was a kid, but you had to pay to do it at somebody's lot. So you were paying retail prices for the tree. It was just very fresh that way. And she really enjoyed it, and there's something about it that's great. So I don't know, wherever you're at in the United States or wherever, if you're in Australia or Canada or England or any of the other countries that I'm so fortunate to have listeners in, if you are going to be celebrating Christmas and you're going to be getting a tree and you've never gone and cut your own, even if you have to go to a place where you pay retail prices, but they let you cut your own down, try it. There's something more rewarding or better about it, I think. Now, we've had a Christmas tree shortage, at least in the United States, for the last couple of years, so I don't think there's any harm there either. You know, if there was enough trees cut down already to serve everybody in the U.S., well, then maybe you'd want to buy one that was already cut down. But I don't think that's where we're at. We've got a shortage, so go do it. It's a lot of fun, and it's definitely rewarding. Now, when you get to do it in the National Forest, if you have that option, man, it is a great day. Think of it as a day away. Think of it as a day with the family. And then our Christmas tree permit was only $10. So we got a really nice tree for $10. And we got the story and the reward and the exercise and all of that to go with it. Matter of fact, and you can't get a fresher tree than we've got. So only $10. Compare that to what you're paying. Compare that to what you're paying in the lots, and you'll see it is a winning situation all the way around. So anyway, we did that, and I will tell you that forestry is a part of agriculture that I almost never cover. I certainly have covered it, but not very often. But it does make you think about it. Not that we came anything close to being foresters. My goodness, no. But it does make you think about it. And that is an aspect of ag that I do not cover enough. So maybe going forward in the future, I will do more of that. But anyway, I will continue to chase elk next weekend. It's I'll tell you what, the snow is deep. And trying to hike through that deep snow, trying to be quiet, trying to stay concealed, and then trying to look for these animals. Oh my goodness, do they have an advantage over me? Over any person, honestly. So I'll try next week, but I've got a different strategy going in. We'll see if it works. We will see if it works. But man, what a beautiful place to be. I sat up there on a mountain hunting, and then in the evenings I like to sit and overlook an area that I think elk will be coming through and see if I can't catch one coming through. And as I'm sitting up there, I'm looking down on this valley in the Camas Prairie of Idaho, and I'm looking at all these different cattle ranches that are down there. And the Camas Prairie gets some pretty brutal winter conditions for our state, and not there yet. It was actually warmer than normal. But I'm looking down at all the snow-covered pivots where people are growing hay, they're growing alfalfa, and there's cattle out there grazing on it. And I just always have to laugh at myself when I think about, and this always happens to me on hunting trips in Idaho, because I get out on the rangeland, out into these areas where you've got large ranches, and these cattle are out there in those conditions, just doing fine. And when it gets nasty at our place, I'm always concerned about the cows, bedding them, doing all this type of stuff. But honestly, man, our cows are spoiled. I'll tell you what. But we'll see. If I ever get onto a ranch of that size out in that area, I will probably adjust. I've done it before. I can do it again. Well, I got home. Our cattle are still grazing. This is a huge reward for me. Just the way we managed all of our forage last year. I'm still not feeding, which is really, really cool. I've never not been feeding this late in the year, and that is a lot of fun for me to have gotten to this point. And we're going to be increasing our cattle numbers, so we'll see if I can maintain that on our little piece of ground here in Kuna. But very cool that we still have cattle grazing and we're not feeding, and we should be carrying a lot of hay over into next year, which is a big deal for us because we're not going to be cutting our own hay next year. We're changing our operation a little bit, so that will be very, very interesting. Well, just one more thought on what I was observing, what we were seeing when we were up there hunting. So this area where Sun Valley is called the Wood River Valley. And so the Big Wood River runs right down through the middle of it. And then you start up at the top at Galena Summit, which separates Stanley, Idaho, which is gorgeous, from the Wood River Valley, which is also gorgeous, the Boulder, White Cloud Mountains, all that area, just beautiful. And the river runs all the way down from the Galena Summit, and then it runs into Sun Valley and Ketchum, keeps going down through the valley into Haley, Idaho, keeps going down through the valley into Bellevue, Idaho, and then goes on down towards, it goes into Magic Reservoir, then ultimately into Shoshone, Idaho, I think. I have to look at a map. But anyway, this valley for years it was sheep and cattle. Now, the snow gets way too deep up towards Sun Valley and Ketchum to do anything in the winter, but certainly in the summer. A lot of sheep grazing, a lot of cattle grazing, and then it got discovered as a ski resort, and it got discovered by people from all over the world with a lot of money, and now it is, there are just big, beautiful mansions all over this valley, and there's a lot of money that comes in there, and it creates issues for the residents there because it drives property taxes up and cost of living and things like that. Like, for example, they've got like supported housing for school teachers in the Wood River Valley, so school teachers can afford to actually take a job there and teach the kids who are going to go to their school district. They've got supported housing, so it's that type of situation which you see in other parts around the country. But something, there's this juxtaposition that hit me yesterday, and as I was heading home, we were driving. I had the Christmas tree in the pickup, and Autumm and Hattie had driven up separate, so I'm driving by myself, and we got done getting the Christmas tree. I've got a bunch of stuff on the books today as I'm recording this, so I didn't take a chance of hunting last night, because if you do harvest an elk, then the work begins. That's a lot of work, and I was just concerned if I by chance got one last night, I would either had to have canceled all my appointments today, which I can't do, or I would have had to leave that elk up there for 2 days, which I did not want to do. It's okay to leave it up there overnight and come back and start packing it out. I didn't want to do that for too many days. So I did not hunt yesterday afternoon. So after we got the tree, they had taken off. I was following them, but they were a bit ahead of me. And I'm coming down through the Wood River Valley, and we started out. We had lunch in Ketchum after we got the tree, and we start heading down the mountain, or heading down the valley. And so Ketchum is that's the spot. That's the big, beautiful homes, Ketchum and Sun Valley, where all the really a lot of actors and politicians and wealthy families and corporations have these big, beautiful places. And starting down the valley and work your way down through Haley, I get into Bellevue, and then down below Bellevue to the south, it opens up into kind of a wider valley, and there's more agriculture going on right there, and more cattle ranches. And it's late in the day. It was about 4 o'clock, and I look off to my right, and there's a ranch there. And I look off to my right, and there's a couple people. I was driving, so I couldn't get a very good look, but they're out in the pasture. They're on an old, beat-up, I think, Ford pickup with a flatbed. There's a 1-ton square bale on the flatbed of the truck, and someone's driving it, probably somebody's Hattie's age, in 4 low, just creeping along through the pasture, and then somebody's on the flatbed and they're pitchforking hay off, and all the cows are trailing that pickup. I love that. I've been that person in the pickup. I've been that person on the flatbed many, many times out there in the cold, in the snow. And man, I love that. Those are great evenings. The sun is going down. It's getting dark. You're getting beautiful colors. The cows are quiet, but they're following along, trying to get that hay. And really, once you get enough hay laid out that they've got space to eat some hay, they get really quiet and they just go to eating. It's man, what a great way to spend your life. I love that. But I couldn't help but notice the juxtaposition yesterday of these multi-million-dollar mansions and Land Rovers and Mercedes SUVs and things like that to this beat up Ford pickup and somebody forking hay off to cattle. And I was very, very happy to see that. And it made me very happy that in Idaho we have a right to farm law, which makes me very happy that these folks have a state law. Matter of fact, it might be in our Constitution. I should look that up. But they have the protection under law to be doing what they're doing. Nobody can come in and say, we're anti-animal agriculture, or we don't like the smell, or we don't like this, or we don't like that. Not that there's any smell on a ranch like that, but they can't come up with any excuse, is what I should be saying, to say, we want these people displaced. It doesn't matter how much money they've got. We've got the law in our favor. Really, really like that. And I love the fact that we've got a tax exemption here in Idaho for agriculture, meaning that they've got this ranch in an area where the actual value of that piece of land in this area is through the roof. And if they got taxed on that assessed value, it would drive them out of business. Probably, no doubt, it would drive them right out of business. But at least here in Idaho, and hopefully you have this wherever you're at as well, if you're farming, that land that is actively engaged in agriculture, it's taxed based on that, which makes the taxes on that land very, very affordable, which makes agriculture very, very sustainable in terms of your tax bill. So happy we have those two things. Loved seeing what's been going on in that valley for 150 years, still going on in that valley. Maybe a little different, obviously, no pickups back then. Back then, probably a sleigh and a team of horses, but really cool juxtaposition to see, and it gives me an excuse to say juxtaposition several times. Okay. Anyway, I like that. I think you guys would have all liked seeing that as well. It was very cool. Hey, I want to tell you about a podcast I discovered over the weekend, and ironically, I have nothing to do with this podcast, but I feel connected. So I came across a podcast. It's called the Growing Debate Podcast, and that's, of course, a play on words. It's about agriculture, the Growing Debate. It is a very, very good podcast. Now, I want to tell you that it is sponsored by Corteva Agriscience. And if you know about what I'm doing and you know your agricultural companies, then you know that I am related to Corteva because I host the Pioneer Corn Revolution podcast. Just released our second season, everybody. Shameless plug. But Corteva, of course, Agriscience, they own Pioneer. But I actually have nothing to do with this show. I discovered it on my own. Nobody told me about it. And I found it out there and I started listening to it. And they've only got 5 episodes out so far. But it is really a good show. It's a very, very good podcast. It's different than my show. There are interviews, but it's done more like a serial podcast or more like a more highly produced podcast. But it's about agricultural issues. And, obviously Corteva and Pioneer, pro-production agriculture just like me, and looking at all the different ways to make agriculture more efficient, make it more profitable, and make it feed more people. I'm all in favor of that. But with that said, this podcast, the Growing Debate Podcast, strikes an interesting line down the middle. They take a very, very objective look at issues in agriculture, at least what I could hear in the first 5 episodes. It's really, really well done. The one episode, if I have to pick between the 5, the one I want to recommend is called The Valley of Death. I thought that one was very, very interesting. And they are talking about the difficulties for small to mid-size farms who are operating on a commodity-based model, their difficulty in surviving. Really, really interesting. They put into words what we've talked about a million times with people in interviews on this show, and they put it into words very, very well. It's a really, really good episode, really, really good show. So I'm always saying that we are underrepresented in agriculture when it comes to podcasting. We need more agricultural podcasts. If you are looking for one, check out the Growing Debate podcast. This is not a sponsorship, even though I'm affiliated with Corteva. They did not ask me to say this. I found this all on my own, listened to all episodes all on my own, and enjoyed it. This is totally 100% genuine. Definitely check them out. This is not an ad for them. This is my recommendation. It was a really, really good show. So if you're looking for more agricultural content, make sure and check out that show. I really, really enjoyed it, and I thought the host is doing a very, very good job of being objective in what he's talking about in the interviews he's conducting, and really casting some light on issues that we need to cast light on. So, for example, on this show, if you've been with me a long time, you've bound to have heard me say this to people before, but I love the fact that there's so many different ways we can go in agriculture. Of course, I'm pro-production agriculture, but here on my own farm, we're niched. And we're doing direct marketing with our beef and with our pork. And for me, that niche helps me to make money. And there are things that I will advertise about our beef. So, for example, we're doing grass-fed and grass-finished beef now. We made that change a while back. We were doing grain-finished beef, but we made that change a while back because people in our area were demanding it. There's a demand for that product, and we're producing the product that our customers want. I'm fine with that. I'm proud to do that. But one of the things I always say to people is, let's herald the great things about what we're doing while not running down the things that other people are doing. So let's not say bad things about other people in our industry to try and give us a competitive advantage or get people to buy our product. That's not a good way to do business. I don't care what industry that you are in, but let's not do it in farming. Let's not do it in agriculture. And there's a really interesting two-part episode called The True and Untrue Story of Food, where his guests talk quite a bit about this and actually talk about it in a way that I've never considered. So, for example, I'm very happy to talk about the reasons that we do grass-fed, grass-finished, and I will talk about the things that people are looking for. So, for example, there's a customer subset out there who is looking for grass-fed, grass-finished beef. They've been told things about beef production. They've been told things about what's in their beef and this and that, and so this is what they're looking for. And I can go out and see what they're looking for. I can read what they're looking for, and I can market and say, well, hey, we're offering this to you. This is what we've got. You want to buy an animal that was born and raised on the same farm its entire life? I can offer that to you. We have that. You want an animal that has never received X, Y, or Z? I can offer that to you. You want an animal that has spent its entire life eating only grass? I can offer that to you. Proud to be able to do that. Proud that we can service those customers and develop these great relationships. But it's interesting how I always thought when you're marketing your agricultural products to overtly say negative things about about a different sector of agriculture, I'm totally against. And I always advise people, let's not do that. Let's not run down other sectors of agriculture to prop ourselves up. But it's interesting how when you're doing your marketing, and I never thought of it this way, but when you're doing your marketing, sometimes the way you're saying positive things about yourself can still do that same thing. And it's just the way you frame it. If you frame it in such a way where it's like, we're better, and this is superior, and this is a premium product, then you're not expressly saying bad things about other people in other sectors of agriculture, but you might be implying that. At the very least, you might be implying that. And I never thought about that. And it's one of those things, marketing is such a huge part of any business. Once you get your product established, your service established, then the next 80 to 90% of your job is to market and let people know that it's out there and get them interested. But I never ever thought about some of the subtle things we might be doing just in being proud of what we're doing that could possibly run down other sectors of the marketplace. So you've got to be really careful about that. I was really thankful to hear this episode, and it made me think deeper about what I've been doing and how I do it. And I don't think I'm doing that. I hope I'm not doing that. But there are times where I get excited about what we're doing, and I'm proud of what we're doing, and hope that I'm not pushing it too far to where there's some sort of implication that I'm doing it better than somebody else. I'm just doing it different. I'm just offering a different product that for the time being there is demand for. So interesting stuff. That's a long way of saying I really think you should check out this show. It is the Growing Debate Podcast. I think you will very, very much enjoy it. All right, everybody. Well, there is our Tuesday edition episode. I hope you're having a great December. I hope you have a great rest of your week. And as always, enjoy your journey to the ultimate lifestyle business, agriculture.